Sir?
You just have a note?
I don't have a note. We gave Ryan.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome everyone. Continue eating your lunch if you're not through yet. And we'll go ahead and call the executive committee meeting over at this time. And thank each one of you for being here. Just as a reminder, you got a cell phone, set on vibrator, turn it off, whichever one you'd like to do. I would appreciate that a lot. The next item on the agenda is item 2, the approval of the agenda. You've got a copy of the agenda in with the approval of the agenda on top page there. And is there a motion that we accept the agenda as is?
So moved.
Is there a second?
We add one thing to it, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And we didn't think to add this, but we could give people just a short update on Foothills Foundation, because we had a lot of discussion about that last time around.
Okay, we'll go ahead and put the foundation as item 9. Got a motion, second, and amendment. Is there any other additions we need to add or deletions from the agenda? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is the approval of the prior meeting minutes of our last meeting. It was on March 20th, 2014. We've had an opportunity to look at those from the committee members. Is there a motion that we accept them?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Is there a second? Thank you. Mike, yes, thank you. We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions about anything on the minutes? Not all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carried. This time I'm going to recognize Mr. Ingram for the Western Regional Partnership letter of intent.
All right. And I think what I'm going to do is recognize Fred Nerde, our incoming new CFO. Start to introduce him, folks. Fred.
Nice to meet you all.
Lisa didn't follow our instructions on, being disallowed from retirement. I know that we did have, I believe, a board resolution to that effect, but.
And it's still in place.
Yeah. Well,
I never followed rules.
yeah. You know how
That's
crazy
what he
Lisa
said.
is.
Yeah.
She's
We
good
should
at
have used
ciphering,
the
but
first
rule following, we're very happy to have Fred. We've got a tremendous background. And, the great part about this is he gets to overlap with Lisa for a while. And I'm sure, Lisa, you want to tell some nice stories about Fred?
Sure, I want to. Well, Fred comes from Peoria, Illinois, and he's been with us for about a week and a half, I guess. So he's relocating to this area, and his spouse will come down sometime this summer. But Fred has really just a wealth of experience in behavioral health, in governmental. Fred was the, if I get the title wrong and stuff, Fred tell me, but CFO for the state of Illinois for their behavioral health section for, I think, 5 or 7 years or so through there. Fred has a certificate as a CPA, so he has a strong background in accounting, along with in behavioral health. Also, what is really new and different about Fred, which is a little unusual, is he's a licensed clinical social worker. So he brings the service side to Smoky. And most recently, Fred was the CEO of a provider agency. So he has that unique blend of wealth and experience as both a clinician and as an accountant, which I think will be good, along with governmental experience. And we know North Carolina is a little different, so I'm happy to work with him over the next few months and teach him some about the North Carolina system, which I'm sure is a little different from Illinois. So, Fred, I know I probably didn't do justice to your background, so would you like to add?
I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the warm greeting, and just to add to the few things Lisa said, I have experience in both the financial and in government accounting and not-for-profit organizations, as well as a clinician. Most of my clinical experience is in developmental disability services very early on in my career, and later on in child and adolescent services on the mental health side. I have worked in hospitals before. I've run a psychiatric facility, a 150-bed facility in suburban Chicago, about 15 miles west of Chicago. So I am familiar with the challenges in behavioral health as North Carolina and most states are experiencing. Certainly have grown in the system with the recovery movement as it affected those with substance use disorders and mental health issues, and dealt with the financial challenges, which are quite great in the state of Illinois. And quite frankly, North Carolina is in a much superior system to be able to deal with those challenges into the future. So I look forward to learning as well as contributing from my own experience and background into I've gotten nothing but a very warm greeting from everyone, and very much appreciate the opportunity to serve.
Want to go around the horn, just introduce yourselves?
I'm Jay Coward. I'm the board attorney. Been here a long time.
I'm Charles Vines, I'm from Mitchell County. I'm the manager of Mitchell County, and also I'm the mayor of Bakersfield. Glad to have you, sir.
Thank you.
You met earlier, I'm Michael Lavender, County Commissioner of Delaware County.
I'm Ed Tarleton, I've been on the board since 2007, and actually in this board, I represent the VHHS appointment secretary.
I'm Amanda Stone, I'm the assistant county manager of
I'm Ronnie Beal. I come from a little small poor county in the west. It's called Macon County. You probably not got out there yet, but Fred, we look forward to you coming to Macon County and seeing us, and welcome.
Okay,
But I've been on this, I've been active on this board for 7 years, and we're losing a good one in Lisa, Fred, so pay close attention is all I'm gonna tell you, because she's good. But welcome.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, boy, a lot of water under the bridge since when we originally drafted this letter. Took a lot of work to get words we could all agree to. I guess I should indicate, I know that the folks who are part of our, board, Western Regional Partnership Board Steering Committee, I think that's what it's called. You know, there's been a couple of meetings, by phone, and some participated via streaming video. And then we had a recent conference call and have proposed a face-to-face meeting for, I'm not even sure I remember the date now, when that was going to be, sometime
May 7th.
May, and we've decided that there's probably not a good enough reason to have a meeting, to pull everybody together for that. So much of what we will be doing, I think, depends upon the position of the General Assembly. And now that the reform plan is out, I think there's enough question about the pace and the priorities, especially given the short session, that we're going to kind of keep doing what we're doing, which is mainly working on business processes and standardization and any kind of efficiencies that can be created out of scaling certain activities. And again, the easiest one to talk about is credentialing, something everybody's required to do as part of the application process if you're a licensed person to be in our network. It's just an illustration of where it doesn't make sense for all three of the MCOs to be doing it, so we're going to do it. And we'll basically have a purchase of service agreement with the other two MCOs for that. So we've gotten to that level with that particular activity, and then the others, really just trying to be as standardized as it makes sense, so that for a consumer or for a provider, it's seamless. Yeah, they're doing business with someone else, but it doesn't, there's not a lot of drag administratively on those differences. So that continues to be our push forward versus any kind of structural changes to the organizations. That's where we're going to keep going until we get a different signal. The letter of intent was something that I think was is it symbolic? Yeah, it's symbolic. It's a little more than that, I guess. It's a statement that, people are really solidly going forward with this regional effort. What I would say is, I'm really not sure about the phase of all of this now. Eric? And that rather than, what my expectation is from the board, and now I'm going to refer to the people that are part of the committee, and that's Ronnie, Mandy, and Rick. I think that really what you would be doing would be getting any feedback from the board. I don't think that the board needs to endorse the letter. I think they're more supporting you and going forward with the effort. It's kind of how I look at it. Because it seems it's a little bit elastic now. So, saying that, let me get your thoughts, and certainly we can answer any questions about anything that's in the letter. We've never really spent a lot of time talking about the letter per se and what's said in there. But I can assure you that there's a lot of discussion to get it to this stage.
Ronnie?
Well, the letter of intent, it started out originally as a sort of a, it was more than a feel-good letter. It had some specifics, it had some things in it that, for us to get to point B, that we thought the letter needed to contain. And like Brian said, after much discussion, some of that has been changed. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't change a whole lot. But there was a lot of discussion around it, and a lot of that, just to be frankly honest, that thing worked.
Looks like it.
To be frankly honest, it was probably when you have 3 different entities and they're, for lack of a better word, jockeying for position, don't even have input. Whatever, how minor it is, or how minor a change you think it is, they want to have input to that. I think that's a fair statement. So, with all that being said, now at the end of the day, the letter of intent does what it says, that it's just a sort of a volley to get this thing rolling to whatever direction we want it to go in as a board. And so, I think the letter of intent serves a purpose. It was well written. I think, by the way, Smokey wrote the letter of intent. If anybody wants, but we included, they were included, but at the end of the day, so that was my take on the letter of intent. It did what it's supposed to do, and that was to get us off square one, off the dime, and start moving forward. Mandy might have a different.
Couldn't add anything to that, very well said.
Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, I can't say that we wrote the letter of intent. It was really a joint effort. And it's what it is. Where it is. It doesn't, and I guess to be very clear, it doesn't bind us to anything.
Nor does it bind the other group.
Right, and that's purposeful.
Right.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And then just correct me if I'm wrong, but the intent at the full board meeting would be to ask the board simply to vote to give this subcommittee consisting of Ronnie, Rick, and Mandy the authority to finalize the letter of intent, through this process, because there's
That's what I
potential
think
for
is-
there to be,
It's important that we have the ability to say that our board supports the letter of intent. That's all we need to say about it.
We will need a motion after the presentation, or how do you want that done?
we have it on the agenda, and we actually worked on some language so that we have a very clear motion for the board.
Okay, good.
Continue on with the.
Yeah, the Medicaid reform plan response. And I think that what we would be advised to do would be to include that in agenda item 9 for the closed session. So let's keep going here. Status of vacant board seat. Let me see, what can I tell you about this? I know that Nancy knew of an insurance guy, and then lo and behold, he lives in Mecklenburg, so that would disallow him. I don't know that we've gotten anywhere on this, have we?
As
Vicki, I think she's
Yeah.
the person, maybe tonight you can check in
Yeah,
to
we
see
could
if
ask her.
she's formed.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, the only thing I know is that we were looking, of course, for someone with the insurance background, and as it worked out, that person was not even residing in our catchment area, which is one of the requirements, of course. So other than that, I don't know of anything new. You can ask her tonight. So we're looking. Anybody has any ideas?
Ronnie, did you talk to Vicki about that fellow with your ear? Okay.
And I think what would be Vicki was here, she would say that that's very much undecided. I think he was sort of leery of what he was.
Get yourself into?
Yeah, I think what it was, and Vicki can explain better than me, that if he's the insurance guy, how important that would be, and I think she tried to console him and say, you know, it's really not, you have to give the law on the insurance, we just need somebody with that experience on how the mechanism works, not exactly how it would work under this situation. So, we just need
There's no
somebody.
quiz.
At the end of the day, I said, tell me we see somebody that says insurance beside these names. And that's true. So, I don't,
Okay.
Vicki might be able to tell you more what she thinks.
Okay. Okay. County Commissioner Advisory Board. Spent a little time with Shelley and Michael, kind of pulling together some thinking that they had, and I guess I just defer to them. You know, it's something, you know, again, just kind of the history on this, we sort of kicked the can down the road a little bit with this, you know, waiting to get the new board constituted. And now is the time to, you know, try to move that forward. Again, as part of the general statute, changes they made in governance. I think probably everybody's pretty aware of that. It's a neatly worded section of the statute, would that be fair to say? Not a lot of clarity in terms of what the group is actually supposed to do. I guess they are to advise, do you know the particular language? Off the top of your head, advise me or advise
The
Oh,
administration, administration, yeah.
Yeah,
It does,
advice
it's,
smoking on, it's basically service utilization.
right, and
So-
it's not
so
specific to
technically.
the board.
So anyway, you know, I guess the way to think about that is that gives us enough ground to do kind of whatever we want to do with the group. So, Michael and Shelley.
I just wanted to preface the presentation by just letting everybody know I've been on the road a lot, trying to touch base with either county managers and a commissioner, their chair, or our board member in each county, just to talk about the advisory council, or have been before the full board of commissioners and included that in my presentation. I haven't gotten to all 23 yet. I'm getting closer. So the information is getting out there. Some of what you're going to hear from Michael is based on some of the feedback we've gotten from those groups. So go for it.
I don't mind. Tonight's board meeting, I won't be there because I have a place tonight in Mitchell County, but Shelley and Chuck and Brian can take the lead. But just to kind of kick this off, basically, just kind of going from the top, working down, our idea is to establish 3 or 4 regional groupings that aren't necessarily consistent with our current groupings, but might be. One thing, for example, because Western Highlands is kind of sandwiched in between some of our regions, we thought that there was a possibility that some of those counties might prefer to be grouped geographically with one of the other existing regional partnerships. But the idea again is to have these regional pairings to kind of facilitate driving time and so that people can become more familiar. You know, we have had over the years at times difficulty getting people to come to meetings when they have to drive from those longer distances. So if we can keep the smaller meetings within the region and then have a subsequent meeting outside the region, then that will hopefully achieve better participation. So to that end, we say we need to identify 3 or 4 regional groupings and then establish a point person in each of those regional advisory groups who will be the contact person for that area. And we'll meet with the county commissioner representative from the Smoky Board and the point persons from the other regional advisory groups once a quarter. The point person can be a current commissioner on the board of directors, can be a commissioner from the former board of directors, or it can be someone who's served on neither of those groups. We don't want to kind of prescribe, if the county wants a new board member, that's fine. They will meet once a quarter, during the first or second month of the quarter as they agree upon the time. It could be a Monday night, it could be a Wednesday night, it could be a whatever night they agree on. We're suggesting the first or second, because we'll get down to another plank here in a moment. Because the idea is in the third quarter, those point persons from each of the regions would meet together as a group during that third month. And these regional groups would have support from Smoky, hopefully, for taking minutes, coordinating meeting space, sending meeting notices, and that kind of thing. And of course, there would be a staff liaison and county commissioners representative to the board, whoever that might be at any given time, would have a standing invitation to meet with any of those regional groupings, whether it be 3 or 4. Those locations for the meetings would, if we follow this plan, would rotate so that, for example, let's just say that the western group of counties decided to kind of stay as they are now. Instead of it always being in Macon County or Jackson County, you could rotate. So nobody has to travel too far every time, and everybody gets to host and that kind of thing. The point person from those regional groups would then meet with the Smoky County Commissioner representative during that third quarter, also with support staff from Smoky. But during any time during that quarter, if there's something that needs to be addressed, they can still contact the county commissioner rep at any time. They don't have to, just because it's between months doesn't mean they can't address an issue. Then at the bottom, it's suggested that we have a standing report from the advisory council as a standing agenda item on the full Smoky board, report on any outcomes, issues, and concerns, etc. And any board members of the advisory council would always be welcome. And on some occasions, members of that council might be asked to help make the presentation. If there's, let's say, for example, that commissioner from Watauga County had an issue and it was fairly complex, and I was the county commissioner rep to the board, rather than making that full presentation myself, I might lead it off, but then ask the county commissioner from Watauga to get into the greater detail, for example. At the annual retreat for the board of directors, we would hope to set aside a time specifically so that the advisory council members could have a planning time at that retreat also. And then within those regional advisory groups, there be a kind of a standing agenda of certain items that are there every month, so that if there is an issue, that you address it. And some suggestions of those agenda items might be for Smoky to update any Smoky or state level MHDDSA activities, to discuss access to care or service issues, as well as concerns about accessing a particular provider. And the distinction there is, for example, if Ed came up and said, we're having a lot of trouble getting services for developmentally disabled clients who have this particular issue, that's one type of issue. But then to say specifically, we're having trouble with this particular clinician at this particular provider because they're staying booked 6 months in advance. Those are two different things. But both of them are issues that affect access. Provider network updates, any concerns from the counties, even about performance issues, for example. Then MCO performance issues or questions, concerns, billing, finance, service allocation, then service delivery, whether that be Medicaid, state, or local funding issues, and any kind of smoking special initiatives. And we thought it might be good because so many of the commissioners that aren't involved on the smoking board might benefit from hearing, whether it be from a provider or a particular service type, to have a profile at these meetings so that, for example, you could do a presentation from Smokey on these are the type of services available to this particular type of client, and here's some of the providers that do this in your area, and here's how you access the service, so that if any of your the people in your county contact you about this, this is who you would refer them to for this service. So that's kind of what we had in mind. So again, the gist of it is regional groupings meet once a quarter during the first and second month, and then those point persons meet the third month again. Standing agenda item on the Smoky Board to present any issues or concerns. And, you know, there are fine details in there, but that's the essence of it. And we're not, you know, we're not going to fall on our sword on anything in here. This is just a suggestion to get us started. So I'm kind of leaving it
With the
at that.
commissioners, the questions I've been asked, you know, I think we can round up enough for the West fairly easy. And we would probably meet when our COGS meet.
Oh, great idea.
That's when we
We
would,
could suggest that for others.
yeah, and that's when we would, some of us that's on the RPO or whatever, we would have to rearrange, we have to start early at 4 o'clock. But the question was, do they get reimbursed for travel
I hadn't thought of
and
that.
meals? If you feed them, they will come.
The statute is silent on that, so it's really, that's a question for our finance officer.
Do we,
Fred, what do you think about that?
I saw that monkey jump so many times, I could,
Well,
we do provide, I mean, we do provide what, for C5? I don't think we do for, do we not providers?
the right answer is, you know, we should, you know, try to do that. I think, you know, it's fine to do that. We just have to be sure we're doing it consistent with any policy we might have.
Well, you know, the general statute does say you have to do it, it has to meet. I mean, you're basically, you blame it on the general assembly, basically.
You know what,
I
Ryan?
have any problem with that. I just find myself, sometimes I answer these questions the way I think it just makes sense and find out there's some
If we
policy.
can arrange it when the COGS meet, then the meal is already out.
That's a great idea.
But there are going to be some of these things that, you know, sometimes it's going to take the whole crowd together. And when you do that, you're going to have a pretty good, you know.
It might have 3 or 4
If we all go to the
pizzas.
Bohemian and have what I had for lunch, it's 50 bucks.
Yeah, no. Lisa didn't hear that.
So, but that is a question I have been asked. And the correct answer is,
I think it seems appropriate to do it because it's
Yeah.
mandated to have an advisory board. I don't really see an issue with that.
There you
I
go.
follow up with
Isn't
DNA.
it mandated?
It's not really
that the
mandated.
commission- That the commissioners have.
Mandated was the wrong.
As long as there's nothing about
It
any
says there is
policy we have.
established, it doesn't say who's responsible for establishing it, it just says there is establishment.
And it's fine. Yeah, we'll do that. I
Okay.
just, as long as there isn't something in some smoky policy that we would have to change or do different or something.
I would commit to looking at
Okay,
our
that's
policies,
all I'm saying.
and if there is, we can certainly apply.
Tracy, well, let me answer your question. The statute as it is currently written, does it say that the county commissioners must have this advisory council, or that Smoky Mountain Center has to have a commissioner advisory council?
It doesn't say either. It just says, there is established a county commissioner advisory board for each catchment area.
There is established.
And it's established in 122C, which is not the typical county section, it would be 153A if it was county, so it's more of a smoking thing than it is county.
I think the thing we'll have to be careful about, so that we don't let it get out of hand, is that we're kind of consistent in whoever's doing the planning on having smoking, that, you know, we're not going to Bohemian in one.
I don't want to see somebody run amok with this thing. That's
Brian's on a roll.
And then another group meeting for 30 minutes and not doing anything. I mean, you know, it's
You know, one of the things when we looked at regions, I'll get out my directory, but the idea of trying to connect it and somehow to the COG meeting is excellent because they're divided, the counties, I mean, they have a natural regional
How
breakup.
many cogs are there for our,
1, 2, 3.
okay?
Just 3? So that would be.
No, that's right.
Okay.
I forgot the name.
Because
We'll figure out something, Bonnie, okay?
I think it's, I mean, this is a worthless advisory board, it's not worth the paper it's wrote on. Everybody knows that. Wrote, written, wrote. This ain't worth nothing.
That's probably why I
And to
got
get
it.
these people to spend their time, that their time is valuable, all their plates are full anyway, if they're doing their job as commissioner. And to get them to come and sit and listen to stuff that, you know, all the thing they know is what you talk to them for the sheriff's department, that their ER is full, and there's no place to send them. What are we doing about that? That's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
So you can feed them all the other stuff that Lisa has on financing and what our plans are in the future. But the bottom line is to get them to show up, you're going to have to, and they would do it just to support some of the people involved, I think.
Okay.
I would like somewhere in there that it be also put in that members of this board, of the Smoky Board, would have a right or to attend meetings. I think you've got in there that the CEO has an open invitation. I would like to see the board members have an open invitation.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about is, in Ronnie addressing what you're doing, what we're trying to do is look at what are the mutual needs of our organization board as far as understanding or hearing from communities and counties about both unique needs and then maybe more regional needs or needs across a provider or several providers. And then, you know, also be a venue for us to communicate information to them and keep them informed. But it's, you know, it is going to be a challenge, so I think the agenda will grow and change a little bit over time. One of the things we really want to do is make sure that, especially, I think Brian made a good point, not only would our network department, you know, be able to interface when those issues are on the agenda, but if there's an issue with a particular provider, Brian said, let's get out of the middle, or, you know, or there are providers want to come make presentations or just be part of the process, and it could be through the advisory council, but really trying to create a process that's meaningful to counties where they're feeling heard and that gives us information that could be helpful to us.
Well, I think by putting it in there and inviting the board members, we are making a statement as a board or as a group that we are interested in what you folks have to say. We're interested in your problems or your situations in each county. I just think it needs to be spelled out.
Okay. What else?
I think that covers it from our preliminary draft. I mean, welcome to hear any other comments or questions or concerns.
And just, you know, the nuts and the bolts of this,
Well, actually, there is one other thing. I can't believe I missed it. We talked about it, but I didn't get it in my notes. We talked about having, if this is agreed to as a draft by the board tonight, we would anticipate sending it out right away to the county commissioners And then our goal would be to have the first quarterly meeting start in August, or excuse me, July. The first quarterly meeting start in July. So that we'd have 2 by the end of the year.
Would we send it to county managers in all the counties?
Right.
Second.
Can I bring up one thing that came up, Chuck, and I'm looking at you, that the board, first this group and then the board may want to address. I know when I met with Chuck in his board chair, one of the concerns came up about, well, can we appoint our county manager to come in our place? And so I don't know, I didn't have the legislation to refer to see what level of specificity, but it is a county, commissioner advisory council. So I think we would have to decide what if, because I could see it quickly becoming, a group of both county managers, county commissioners. I of course would prefer a pure group, but.
I told him no.
Well, we were
you
told
told me
next
no?
week we
Okay.
had the ability to appoint anyone they would like to have to represent the commission. That's what we were told.
Chuck.
Because it's so vague.
Well, I think.
Is that way you understand it, Chuck?
Yeah, but it's very vague. It doesn't really clarify it at all, but the way I read it, when I read into it, is that the county commissioners can appoint anyone that can, not the county, and it doesn't have to be a county manager. It could be a representative of that county commission.
Yeah, I mean, you take, for example, when,
Say that again?
No.
if they send them as their representative, I think he's right, because you take, for example, when the County Commissioners Association has their voting meeting in January, Mecklenburg almost always sends, for lack of a better term, a lobbyist who has taken the directive of their county commissioners and is acting on their behalf, but he is not the county commissioner, but he's voting with their, and I think it's the same thing. They say, this is my representative. I think it's a point.
I voted for our county commissioner for the past 7 years at the association meeting.
The one thing I would just want us to remember, the whole reason this advisory council was created was to, with the new board structure, was to ensure that there was a direct link between the counties and, in communication with us as a public entity. And really the, county manager, county local government, the commissioners, they're sort of the, they have the authority and they do sit on capital committees, but people start being appointed that are not a member of local government, it tends to lose the focus of what's out, and they may not really know it makes something he wants.
Well, I don't
Chuck?
disagree. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, can I just, here's what it says. There's established a county commissioner advisory board for each catchment area, consisting of one county commissioner from each county and catchment area, designated by the board of commissioners of each county.
Right.
That's what the law says.
That's what I'm, yeah.
This is their county commission.
That's the good county commissioner.
Okay.
Here we go. When in doubt, read the law.
Yes.
Well, I've read it so many times, but it's been a while.
Okay.
So
Anything else
that's
on?
good for clarification for tonight.
But is this going to be put before the board tonight to
With those additions, we can add
any
those.
changes or what?
We wanted to add that board members would know about the meetings and be
That we
invited.
would be welcome at the meetings or have an open invitation, I think is the word.
Sure.
And
We can read
have we
whatever.
formally appointed the point person, or does that mean when you've assumed that?
I think when those folks get together,
They
they
appoint.
They appoint, so it's their
Ronnie's volunteering.
Well, I would say, I agree on the county commissioner that, you're gonna get asked a question, can they bring somebody, and I think you ought to plan your space accordingly. I think particularly with the Western Highlands commissioners, they're gonna tell you they have very little hands-on knowledge if you want a meaningful conversation. conversation. I mean, I say that with all due respect, but they've never sat on the board in a long time. So I'd just say get ready for the question about when we bring somebody in.
Sure.
Whether we're there or not.
If I could just comment one thing on your fourth bullet down. It states in there that Smokey will need to provide the staff facilitate this expanding meeting those who are taking minutes, coordinating space and other necessary functions. Smokey will assign a staff liaison and the county commissioner representative of the Smokey Board of Directors will have an standing invitation to meet with these groups. That should satisfy your request that to be able to meet with them at any time. In the fourth bullet down on what, okay, here. It states that in there, Smoky Mountain will assign, or the county commissioner representative of the Smoky Mountain Board of Directors will have a standing invitation to meet with these groups. So that tells me that I can meet with these groups if I want to.
Well, I think it's a little
That we
different.
need to clear up because we have an appointment on the board that's not from the county, not, or the county representative, you're here representing the state. So we need to maybe clear up that one sentence right there to include any of the existing Smoky Mountain
Board members.
So basically what we would be saying is for the board, that the county commissioner representative, which now is Michael, is the official point person, and then board members overall will be notified at meetings if they decide.
Correct.
Very well, that's what I asked.
That's the additional.
Very likely.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the things that we're adding, if I understand correctly, would be that addition of having other board members who wish to attend, that we're looking into travel reimbursement, possibly meal reimbursement for county commissioners, that we're going to send it to the county commissioners for approval with first meetings to begin in July. Are those the only things I heard?
I would add one more section in there, just to remind everybody, this is a public meeting of a public body. It has to give notice of its meetings, it has to be open for anyone to attend, and that probably needs to be in there so everybody is clear about it. And I think that covers
That
what
would
you're
cover it
concerned
right there.
anyway, since it's an open meeting of a public
Does
body.
this have to be publicized a 2-week notice, Jack?
It probably ought to be
Yes.
noticed, just like you do
Who makes the
anything
notice?
that's noticed for Smoky
That's
Mountain. I'd say
noted.
our staff would do that.
We put it on our website.
That won't work, that's not what the law says, you have to publish.
I'm all right with that.
You have to publish in the paper, right?
No.
Um,
You wouldn't have a majority of commissioners from any board, so probably however they post meeting notices, would that not work?
We have
Because
to
you
post
wouldn't
ours in the
have-
paper, we still have to post ours in the paper.
But you wouldn't have a majority of any
We wouldn't
commissioner
have
board
none of the
there.
meetings.
So, yeah.
One of the things, we can include the legislation, the section of the legislation with it, so people will have it for review. I think that will be helpful, and we'll address, I think what we said is we'd send it to the county manager saying, we're trying to get this started. We want to work with you in identifying who your county commissioner representative will be. You would also be invited to bring county manager or others as needed, just so it's not like a.
And what you end up doing is get some of these folks to serve. Charles had to pick up the phone and call people he knows in that area. Charles worked with for years. I'll do the same thing. That's how you're going to get them to come.
Yeah, Ronnie, just to answer your question, I've got the statute in front of me, posted it on the website, it's all we have.
That Smokey has to do.
That we have to do, and we email it to anybody who has signed up to receive a copy of it.
Just comes from board commissioner, we have to publish it in the paper.
Yeah, it's a different statute, though.
Okay.
So we'll take care of that.
So that's a big item in a lot of counties right now.
Earlier, Tracy said we're gonna put that on the agenda tonight, for action. Are we gonna take action to, for the, support of the draft that's gonna go out to the council?
Would be
I mean, the executive committee, I don't think has any authority to do much more than come up with good ideas.
But you can't say, I think it would be good to say the executive committee
Right.
approved.
In his, because he'll do the executive committee report, so you can,
Yes, that's available.
Bruce,
Suggestion,
recommendation.
recommended.
unlimited funds for meals.
Here, he's wanting to eat.
Good
I
one.
don't think we suggested that.
Did I miss that part?
Do you
You-
need
you
these
had put him
different
in on your
issues
mind, but,
related to your communication issues?
I will look at the policy.
So I'm gonna go see if I can make some changes, and see if I can do that, if I can.
And we'll move on to the county maintenance of airport fund.
We are all beginning our budget seasons, and we have two different kind of worlds. You know, the original Smoky counties where we've done that via a letter, and as opposed to Western Highlands legacy counties where it's been, I guess, even more informal than a letter. And there's probably a range of ways that it's done. So what we're going to be in the process of doing is, I think for the 15 counties, now catch me up on this, if we send our letters, or what's the status of that?
All those letters in the
Okay. And that's pretty much, very much like what we've done in the past. So very little, if any, difference there. The Western Highlands counties, in some cases, I don't think every letter is going to be the same. Some counties, we're going to go out and have individual meetings and learn about what the priorities are for funding. Some counties, it's very straightforward. We'll have a body of a letter that we send out that is the same for everyone, and then we'll kind of fine tune it to the county. So, I guess this is more for the Western Highlands folks. We'll be trying to get those letters out probably within a couple weeks. And then, like I said, some is, very straightforward, and others it's a little more complicated. So for those that it's more complicated, we just go out and system. So, and then, this item we added on Foothills Foundation. We had a lot of discussion about this last time around. Let's see. The foundation board had a meeting.
You had a meeting yet, or is it scheduled?
Well, they did have a meeting before,
Yeah.
okay? And kind of organized themselves around coming to agreement around supporting the proposal for the facility-based prices. And I think there's going to be a letter drafted.
The letter has been drafted, and sent to Rick, and I think Rick shared that with the rest of the members of the board. It's drafted as a letter of support to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency in support of the grant application that was submitted by Caldwell County. So what it says is that the Foothills Foundation Board supports the grant application and commits to funding the difference between the estimated construction cost and the amount of the grant. The amount of the grant is $750,000, so the difference is about $333,000. So the letter says it commits to cover that up to $350,000 in case there's a little overage there. And so the Foothills Board is going to meet to vote on that.
We met earlier, but not everyone was there, so we're going to meet again to talk about that later and so forth. I think someone raised a question in the email exchange about the total amount, because initially, I think there were 2 grants, and I think we missed the deadline for the KP Reynolds grant, I believe is the issue, but I don't want to speak for Jenny. I think that's correct. There was originally the Housing Finance Agency grant as well as KP that was being considered, but with the delays, I think the KP cycle passed, from my understanding, but think Jeannie or Christine or somebody would be the one that is that your understanding of the story?
We missed it the first time around because we weren't enough pieces of logistics together.
Right.
And so it'll come back around in the fall, but with the, if the Housing Finance Association comes through with their funding, and if the Foothills Board is in agreement to make this allocation for this particular project, we will be in great shape. Not that we would continue to go after additional dollars as increase of construction costs will go up over the next 12 to 15 months as the facility is added on to the current RHA facility in Lenore.
I suspect, just based on conversation, there may be some expectation that we still apply to that.
Yeah, and we should.
Correct. Just because Foothills has the money, there are other things that our clients use that for.
Okay. Closed session.
Item 10, the next item on the agenda, we're going to go into closed session. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143, 318, 11, bracket A, bracket 3, consult with attorneys in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege concerning matters of litigation, evergreen and NC mentor, and to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged and confidential pursuant to NC General Statutes 122C, 126.1, are not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes.
So moved, Chairman.
Got a motion? Okay. Now we'll close that. We'll close that.